Sound like something else, didn't it? I think he's saying should. No, should show.
It's probably just,
That way you're knowing what you're getting on downstream.
You're not gonna get all. I'm using that.
So the funny thing is that as soon as you open that, it's impossible not to spill it. It's a little bit. The way they seal those and stuff like that.
We're not gonna right now, right?
Oh, you did?
I'm like,
yeah.
absolutely. Just throw it in there, some other things.
Gotcha.
The other thing you want to do, because of the recording, so.
Ah, the
What
wisdom.
space do you have on your machine? No, Oh, I checked, I shut that up. Okay, cool.
Hey, Norma.
So, yeah.
I was gonna take this off with my gloves,
yeah.
can I take that?
When you get home, or when you get in the car.
Soon.
Right.
We'll be a matchless society soon.
I'm looking forward to that.
I think so. I got faith.
It's gonna record right
I know she was out for a couple days.
to your movies folder. You can make it go where.
I said Wednesday afternoon or Thursday at a time to make for you. Wednesday afternoon? Perfect. Okay,
Where do you set, where do you set the?
Monday, 3 o'clock?
The name of the file. It just.
You tell me that. Yeah, that works for me.
I just got back to the office kind of
2 o'clock, I'll,
from today.
yeah, I'll let them know right now.
Went over to
2 o'clock. Okay, yeah, that works, thank you. I'll,
Ron's house.
I'll be on later on this. Thank you. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Good, happy New Year.
You too.
My friend. Okay.
Yeah, you have to add it to the playlist.
She said, Council President's got to move to the end of the
Yeah.
Oh, Sophia, I can't answer your phone call. Oh, okay, it's not
Am I
part
gonna
of it.
Busy.
understand?
Busy.
Oh, no, in case of emergency.
Busy in a good way.
Oh,
That, you know,
I like
it's
that.
an important distinction, right?
It's
Sometimes,
actually
you know,
a
you're
picture of a
busy and it's like, you know.
Oh,
busy in a
okay,
good
I
way.
like that.
Yeah.
It's true too.
Here, I just put a quick keys. So that I don't get that notification.
Oh, yeah.
I'll do. Yeah. Usually runs too long.
Two PM, is it? All right, thanks. Thank you. I'll send out an invite as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Happy New Year, Marion. Happy New Year. Hey. Come on, you're so much money at the table here. Look at that. Thank you. Thank you.
We state exactly what it is, you know, it's in there, plus, you know,
Last minute,
they have
eh?
the ability to change it, not to necessarily raise it to go down. To change it with, upon 30 days notice, we will have the option, if necessary, to. It's in the best.
Do you never go back to the hospital?
No, I believe it's his first day back.
We need that.
So, okay, that's good. Anybody want any water?
I'm good, thank you.
What's going on? How you doing? Good, thank you. Oh, you are? You like it?
When he asks if there's anything else, you can, if he doesn't, and call them, yeah.
I crossed it just to say that. It was so freaking
I'll text him.
See the train table?
Oh, we had already got, oh, well, we got
Good afternoon. God, I just said good morning. God. Is Gary come?
I don't know, I haven't seen him. I would assume so, but.
Shoot, I already cut up that one. This is a much prettier one I would ever do.
We gotta get the okay from them too.
Is there anything, this is my first time on claims, is there anything special I need to do except call it to order?
No, I mean, nothing to do for this one. If you'd like, when I send legislative requests out, I'm happy to copy you on it so you have it ahead of time. But Sam sends everything out anyways with everything. You can always reach out to me if you have any questions. Call it like every other committee.
Except we have to do it in an executive session.
Generally, things are in executive session, but you have to, you know, go into executive session.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
It's not executive session by default. It's executive session if the council is inclined to and qualifies for executive session.
Okay.
My recommendation though, for, like the review here does not need to go into executive session about amending. That, for number one, I don't think that qualifies for executive session because that's after the public hearing. The second one, the discussion on ongoing litigation, should be an executive session because it has to do with ongoing litigation.
Yep. Okay. All right. Okay. Good evening.
Thank you, Karen.
And first of all, I'd like to call to order the Schenectady City Council committee meeting to order for Monday, January 3rd, 2022. And first of all, I'd like to say Happy New Year to everyone. And we will go right to public safety.
So I'd like to call the Public Safety Committee to order. We have two items on the agenda this evening. The first is the body-worn camera grant, and we will be briefed by Assistant Chief Mike Seaver.
I'm not sure what side. No microphone. Welcome, Happy New Year, everyone.
Do we need a
Happy
microphone?
New Year.
You okay? Glad to be the first item on the agenda for the year. Mr. Bill, okay. No, we have the body worn cameras, so we have a program right now that all patrol uniform officers are signed on. We decided to expand the program into our animal control officers, our parking meter attendants, as well as our detectives. Now, just for clarification, as far as detectives, it's used as they see fit. You know, sometimes detectives do work patrol activities. They do interdiction sometimes, or depending on their job assignment. So to record that, it's not to be on 24/7. All interviews, I just kind of like clear that up. But you can see news out there. Didn't want to mislead anybody. It's not getting aware of patrol officers. Every interdiction, it's a little bit different with detectives. With that said, the program is basically completely funded by the Bureau of Justice Program, and there is an in-kind service that we have to meet, in-kind match, I should say, that we have to meet. And it really comes down to, we have a lieutenant kind of assigned to the program, some of his salary. We have some other personnel assigned to video redaction and so forth. And basically, we lay that all out in a grant application, and it is our match. So no, this is budget neutral, but it's $155,200 award for new cameras and equipment.
All right, thank you. Were there any questions from our fellow council members? If not, then if I can get a motion to pass the grant.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
So moving to the second agenda item, it's a ceremonial resolution recognizing Tom Kelly on his graduation from the FBI National Academy, and that'll be presented by Mr. Conley.
Mr. Kelly went to the FBI Academy, which is very prestigious. I believe the third member of our course, the Chief Detective Sanders, Lieutenant Sanders, and now him. So that would be something.
Assistant Chief Seaver is also.
100 years ago.
They haven't ever
Some of the staff have learned more from the academy than others.
Sorry to exclude you. So this would be to recognize his hard work from a very prestigious academy.
I'll move this.
Second?
Well, any questions first? All right, can I get a motion?
John, you want to?
Second. Motion to.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Was there any other business to come before the Public Safety Committee?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we are adjourned.
At this time, I'd like to call to order government operations. We have two items on the agenda tonight. First is Governor Hochul's executive order, 11.1, and Andrew is going to speak to that.
Yep, I know this is Assessor McElroy, his name was on here, unfortunately she's ill today. So you should have before you a legislative request to essentially exercise a local option pursuant to Governor Hochul's Executive Order 11.1. It relates to allowing those people with exemptions, as it mentions in the request item, the ability to get essentially an automatic exemption that those people had on the prior assessment year roll. So we're talking about senior, low-income, and disabled low-income resident property owners in the city of Schenectady. Their exemption would be automatic based on their presence on last year's roll. Obviously, otherwise, the city does not pass a resolution to exercise this local option pursuant to the executive order. These senior, low-income, and disabled low-income property owners would have to leave their homes to file the exemption paperwork during this COVID spike. The governor has obviously passed an executive order to give the municipalities around the state the ability to essentially opt in to allow the automatic exemption.
Any further discussion? Can I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, next,
All those in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Nice.
Used to it.
I'm telling you. One of the much grace I will be depending on as I norm myself here to these new procedures, okay? Okay. Also, second on the agenda, we have a reminder amending chapter 138-30 of the Code of the City of Schenectady, and I also turn that back to Andrew.
Thank you. There's a reminder that there's a public hearing at the next council meeting on the 10th related to amending section 138-30 of the code to add a subsection for the ability for tenants and owners of property to opt to have a hearing in the event that the city issues an order to vacate due to an unsafe structure. This is something that I've spoken to the mayor about, and Chris Lund. We see this as being a good check and a good, really just a better practice for the city to, just review our decisions when code enforcement officers are on the scene to make sure that, we're not requiring people to vacate their homes arbitrarily, or not even arbitrarily, but sometimes in the heat of the moment, we may think that a property needs to be vacated due to the circumstance, but in retrospect, it may be that we need to modify the order. So this gives people the opportunity to be heard. I have some language that's drafted. I will be sending it to the city clerk tomorrow so that it can be made available as soon as possible. And I'll obviously ask her to send it along to all the council members.
Any questions or further discussion on that? Okay. So, any other, no other business out of government operations, so can I have a motion to close out?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in fair?
Aye.
Thank you. We're concluded.
I'd like to call to order City Development and Planning. We have one item on the agenda to authorize the mayor to enter in supplemental agreement with New York State Department of Transportation for pedestrian safety plan, City of Schenectady, PIN 1760.95. Mr. Wallen?
Good evening. For those of you that are new on the table, the City of Schenectady applies for and receives federal funding for several transportation projects a year. This is one of them. This is a pedestrian safety action plan. This was money that was earmarked for municipalities such as the city. We still had to apply for it. We were awarded $1.1 million. The design was completed. The project was bid. The bid was awarded by the council several months ago, but the project has not started yet due to weather. It's due to start in April. However, before we incur any costs, what this is to request to the DOT that we have it awarded, that we have our agreements in place, and that we would like to be able to receive federal funding to reimburse ourselves. So on a project such as this, we are actually eligible for 100% of the federally eligible costs on the project. Which in this case for construction is around $800,000. So with these resolutions, we send it to the state, and then they understand, we form a formal agreement, and then as the project goes, I, working with finance, send paperwork to them, and they reimburse us for the costs that are eligible on the project.
Thank you for the detailed explanation. Are there any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallen. Is there anything else to come before City Development and Planning? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
I would like to call to order finance. So the first item is the 2022 electronic waste recycling bid. Ms. Gallagher.
Good evening. So I'm bringing before the council the bid for 2022 electronics waste recycling. The previous contract providing services to remove electronic waste collected from city residents has expired, and so a new solicitation was issued. The solicitation for electronics waste recycling services was issued and one bid was received from ELOT Electronics Recycling for a cost of $644.50 per ton with a $100 pallet container charge per pickup. The estimated total for this contract on an annual basis is $77,280 plus the fees per pickup. So I'm requesting that a resolution is passed for the mayor to enter into a contract with ELOT's Electronic Recycling.
Any discussion, please?
Is this a company that we've used before?
Yes, this is the company that bid on it last time.
Okay, is this an increase in cost or?
It
Is it flat?
it is an increase in cost and there wasn't the pallet container charge pickup prior.
Okay, so do you know what the increase, like percentage-wise or dollar-wise?
I would have to look back because I don't recall what the cost was previously.
All right.
I can let you know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other discussion? May I have a motion?
Move it.
Second, all in favor? Aye. The next item is request
Thank
for
you.
authorization to purchase sodium hypochlorite 2022. Mr. LaFont.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Every year, we bid out our chemicals for both the wastewater and the water treatment plant. First item, request for authorization to purchase sodium hypochlorite is a component we need for the treatment of wastewater prior to going into the Mohawk River to meet the disinfection requirements of the treatment. We did was for Surpass Chemical for this year. They've been the provider of our hypochlorite for quite a long time. They manufacture it right in Albany for sodium hypochlorite. So, their request is to have an approval to move forward with the mayor to enter an agreement for the purchase of sodium hypochlorite for the year 2022.
Any discussion?
I'll move it.
Second, all in favor? Aye. The next item is request for authorization to purchase the liquid sodium bisulfate 2022.
Again, it's an essential chemical used. Once we chlorinate for disinfection, we have to dechlorinate to go back into the river. So we have to remove the chlorine after we put the chlorine in. So the sodium bisulfate is to remove the chlorine after treatment prior to discharging into the Mohawk River. Again, it's an essential chemical needed in the treatment of the wastewater treatment plant.
Any discussion?
How many bids did we get?
I apologize because Phyllis had to leave early, but it should be in the bid tab for the sodium bisulfate.
Yeah, it looks like we got 2. And is this the company that we've,
Yes.
that's the company we've used before?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Any other discussion?
I'll move it.
All in favor? Aye. The next item requires the authorization to purchase fluoride acid for 2022.
Again, this is for the water treatment plant. This is fluoride, hydroxyphosphoric acid. It's really fluoride. It is required under our permit to put fluoride in the drinking water for the city of Schenectady. Again, an essential chemical for the treatment of water.
Any discussion?
I see the bids.
May I have a motion?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Mr. LaFont would like to add one item on this committee, the purchase of fluoride gas. If there's no objection, I would like to add this.
Chlorine gas is, again, it's essential in the treatment for our water supply. It's for disinfection. It was one vendor bid. It's Jones Chemical. They're out of Sarasota, but they do have a manufacturing plant in Warwick, Rhode Island. They've been the bidder for the past several years. They can only guarantee the price. They would like to know they can increase the price in their bid with 30 days notice because of the pandemic right now and the production of chlorine gas. They can't commit to a price for the full year. They are the only bidder. However, with the help from law, we will put something in our contract that we can get out in 30 days notice also.
If it's in the best interest, if I may,
If it's in the
sorry.
best interest.
If it's in the best interest of the city to, potentially terminate that contract because, the price goes up and we need to look for another vendor that can, provide the gas at a better price, we'll put language in the contract to make sure that we can do that.
Perfect. Go ahead.
So is that a I mean, so we only got one bidder, and let's say the price just went through the roof. Do they have, is there a limit on how much they can increase the price by? Did they say that?
No, there is not.
So they're just saying, if we need to increase it because our costs increase.
And I did check, with another local community, Rotterdam's right across the road, and they've got the same considerable increase. From last year to this year, it's considerable increase. It's all based on the pandemic and the trucking of the gas, transportation, and the manufacturing of it. They cannot commit. And I did check with Rotterdam, and they also are seeing a significant increase, and they purchased from Jones also.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Can we order like a year's supply?
No, unfortunately, because their cylinders and their gas, we can only store so many on site, and if we can't store off site because it's considered hazardous, and we can't transport it ourselves in our vehicles, so it's transported by the company.
So how much of a, I'm sorry,
No, please.
how much of a supply are we ordering?
We usually order about 20 to 30 cylinders at a time. That's all we can fit in the building.
So like a month worth?
It's about a month. It's really based on demand. We use more in the summer because the actual supply of water, the demand for water goes up considerably in the summer, watering, pools, everything else. So winter is our lower time. We don't have that much of a demand. So it's really based on the demand, what we need. So.
Thank you.
So, I'm just curious as to why we have that one vendor bidding. Is that just?
In the past, Jones Chemical is the most known vendor for chlorine gas. Like I said, they're out of Warwick. Years ago, even at the wastewater treatment plant, we used chlorine gas. They were 1-ton cylinders. Back in the 80s, 90s, it was Jones Chemical. They're pretty much the producer of chlorine gas. But there was an increase from last year to this year, from $125 to $240 some. So it has come up because of the pandemic. But again, that's the only thing we use to disinfect our water supply for drinking water.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams?
Oh, I remember my question.
Are you good? Okay. Any other questions? May I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Are there any other business before finance?
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
McConnell.
all.
I'd like to open claims, and I guess for the first item, we can stay outside of executive session. So if we want to just go ahead with that, or we can go into executive session.
That's correct, there's nothing that has to go, well, for the first item, I don't believe it qualifies for executive
Okay.
session.
So I'm calling claims to order, and the first item on the agenda will be presented by Mr. Colden regarding amending section C618 of the Charter of Schenectady.
There was a public hearing that was held on December 27th related to amending this section of the charter to conform with what the state law says to extend to extend the time for owners of 1, 2, and 3 unit residential properties the time to pay their delinquent taxes. I know, obviously, I think it would be a question for the city clerk if any public comments were received at any point.
No one spoke, no comments received.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
My position, obviously, from the law department, I brought this forward, would be to a legislative request to pass an ordinance amending this section of the charter, specifically the language that was provided to the public and to the council.
Okay, are there any questions?
No, I just want to comment that I think it's important, especially, considering the fact that we're talking about the eviction and storing on mortgages, coming to an end, and people could be in challenging situations. So I'm glad that we're looking at that.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And so now I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session for the second piece of this. Do I have to come out of claims?
You have to do a motion to go into executive session. This has to do, for the public's awareness, this has to do with ongoing litigation, discussing where litigation stands and settlements and other things along those lines.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. we'll go into executive session.
I would request that if Chief Clifford fill out at this time.
Chief Clifford, can you stay with us 30 minutes?
They take it apart.
There's a switch to plug in on the side. Yep.
That black button.
Do you want to take it
Out, or do you just turn the thing off? Yeah, that's right.
I think
I don't know what this
he
one
collects
is.
them.
Oh, okay, he'll come back.
He's right here.
Oh.
They're doing it all from here tonight.